the field for Eastlake is set. However, there are some names that will not be in attendance. The notables: Will Zalatoris, he's out. Max Homa, he's out. Corey Connors on the wrong side. And after a great first 3 rounds, Alex Noren fell outside the top 30. Patrick, the last man in, the last man in, who started the week in 22nd. That should have probably been safe. Didn't have to sweat it out, but he did. Justin Thomas, with one of the best rounds of the day, will be at Eastlake next week.
Yeah, what a bummer for Alex Noren to be in contention all week and then implode down the stretch, miss out not only on a potential win, but your first trip to the Tour Championship. And in his place comes everyone's favorite golfer, the Ryder Cup extraordinaire, Justin Thomas. I kind of hope he plays well next week at the Tour Championship, sneaks inside the top 5, top 7 or whatever, and just continues to muddy these President's Cup waters for Jim Furyk. Make it really difficult on him so we have more to talk about before September. But weird year for him. He flashed a lot in the early season with the American Express being alongside Nick Dunlap and Sam Burns in that final round. Thought he was all the way back, and then he went through a little bit of a lull. You had tournaments like the Scottish Swing, I think, perfectly encapsulates Justin Thomas right now, right? He goes to first round lead at the Scottish Open, then almost goes full Keegan Bradley and misses the cut. Open Championship, pretty similar there. And then, oh gosh, I'm in contention on Sunday. First tee shot, blows it into the ocean. And so there's still a lot of good in his game. His ceiling's very high, but needs to clean up the mistakes. And he did today, just did enough to get to the Tour Championship. So kudos to him, although I am kind of saying that tongue in cheek, to get back to Eastlake after missing the playoffs entirely last year.
He's got some work to do. He's going to start at even par. That'll be 10 shots off the lead. Now, good news, Greg, for Tommy Fleetwood, who's had a great year, but struggled in the first leg and was 31st before the week started. He played well. He finished T5 at the BMW Championship. That moves him up and secures his position. He will enter the week 22nd. He will start at 1 under par.
Yes. And kind of similar to what Patrick was saying about Justin Thomas, this was kind of emblematic of Tommy Fleetwood, capable of putting together really solid rounds of golf. This 69 was very solid. Not a whole lot of mistakes in this round. He made some putts in that 12 to 15 foot range. He missed some as well. Things were kind of normal in this round for Tommy Fleetwood. And I think it's a very good thing that it gets him into the Tour Championship, because although there's no win, and although there may not be memorable moments of Tommy in contention on the PGA Tour, of course, that doesn't include the Olympics. I think Tommy Fleetwood belongs in the Tour Championship, and it was a well-earned place after a solid 69 on Sunday.
There were a couple of names here, KP, that already started inside the top 10 that all lost just a few spots. Rory McIlroy goes from 5th to 6th. Colin Morikawa goes from 4th to 7th. That's probably the biggest drop, because that's a 2-shot drop. Wyndham Clark goes from 6th to 8th, which is actually does not change his position at all for the Tour Championship. So those 3 are lurking. They've got work to do. It'll be an uphill battle, but they are, I believe, within arm's reach.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, Rory was the worst entering to win it, right? He was 6th.
5 under. 5th.
Okay. I thought he was further back than that. But, I think this is a good jumping off point to sort of get this take out there, Rick. I didn't watch golf last week or this week and think like, man, these guys are really fired up about the playoffs. Right? Like, I think Keegan winning, like as a fan, I thought Keegan winning very cool. I thought Ludwig in contention, very cool. There's a lot of different things to follow, but I think it's a real problem for the tour that Scotty's like pissed out of his mind right now. Rory seems like just mentally fried, like just cooked on the year. And we don't need to go down like a how can they change the playoffs type deal, but it doesn't. We talked about this last year, man. It was like Scotty said, we're just trying to get to the finish line, just trying to make it, I can't remember the words he used, just trying to survive until we get to the end. You're like, that's not how I want my mega like guys carrying this league to be talking about the preeminent event. It's just a weird deal. Did you pick up any of that, Rick?
Well, here's the thing. You hear a lot of guys say, I'm trying to peak 4 times a year. One of those times is not late August for the FedEx Cup. They're referring to 4 other times. So you never really hear that. And we've documented this a lot, both anecdotally, looking at it, these guys look and sound exhausted.
Yeah.
And then statistically, they are playing the most golf they've ever played through this point in the year. I mean, it is just, it feels like it's been a meat grinder all year, and they see the light at the end of the tunnel, and it's like, I don't care. Just get me there.
Right. And there was a quote from Xander. I think it was like a little promo deal. I think it was within the broadcast. It wasn't a commercial or anything, where he said, yeah, I'm just trying to have patience because I'm really, really short on patience at this time of the year.
Yes, I heard that.
That's not great. I mean, I agree with him. Like that's probably how we would all feel. But like the whole thing, it continually year after year after year feels like such a slog. And again, like we don't need to solve that right now, but I felt that this week, not covering it, but just watching those guys, and you're like, I don't know if this is like the best product the PGA Tour could, or the best way for the PGA Tour to get its product out there.
You know what it feels like, Greg? So it reminds me of what happened after Phoenix this year, where everyone has known Phoenix is like a total chaos, just disaster. But this is the first time that I remember players being like, yeah, it's kind of crossed the line a little bit, or, something might have to change. This is the first time I remember hearing players be as forward about Scotty Scheffler just like basically said, this sucks. And like, this is a bad format. And then based on what other guys have said, I feel like this is the first time I've heard those complaints voiced before.
Well, there's, it's still somewhat new, right? This is the fifth edition of the starting strokes format, I believe. 2019 was the first time. And so, perhaps there's a little bit of time where they got to see how it goes, kind of a deal. A couple things I find interesting about this. In the times that I've heard players talk about their goals for the season, right? This has gone on for a number of years. To my surprise, one of the first things they mention is making it to East Lake. Now, these aren't necessarily the top tier player, the best of the best of the best, right? But pretty recognizable, pretty notable players where I'm thinking, well, win a major is going to be the first goal, and it's make it to East Lake, right? There are so many of these guys, so many more than I thought, where they want to be in that top 30. And if you're sitting in the number 1 spot for the entire season, you're going to make it to East Lake. And if you're sitting in the number 2 spot all season, you're going to make it to East Lake. And so that goal isn't necessarily there. Winning the Tour Championship is not something I hear of being a goal very often. Winning a major may be. Winning multiple times on tour may be. Winning the FedEx Cup isn't as much as you'd like. And perhaps that has something to do with the format. It's very clear that Scotty has been the best player all season. and it does expose some issues. If Scotty's back is hurt, if it is, I don't believe it is, but if it is, well, you got a serious problem if he has to withdraw. He's the most deserving number one player you've had in a season-long race in a long time. And he cannot finish 30th. Right? Yeah, that just can't happen. So that definitely brings an issue to life. Last year, when Victor Hovland wins, it's a great storyline, right? Rory McIlroy comes back on Scotty, a 6-shot deficit. Well, Scotty comes in second. You know, it feels like he should have won, but he didn't, and that's just kind of sports. But there could be a situation that if Kyle's feelings come to fruition next week, there could be a situation that just is very unfortunate.
Well, go ahead, KP.
Well, I was going to say real quick, I think Greg hit the heart of the issue, which is you're totally right about the top 30. Like that is a goal. It's almost like you should just take the top 30 at the end of the regular season and just let them play East Lake. The problem being for the tour, and this is where I sympathize with them, you got to have programming, right? You got to have programming for your contract with FedEx, for your, like all these different things. And the players just feel like a little bit of a role player in that. They're like, yeah, we're just going to roll you out there. We know, like producer Josh just said, Scotty should have not played the first two events. What's going to happen? Like, he's still going to be in first.
Yeah. Someone asked him in Memphis about that.
What
and
did he say?
He was like, yeah, looking back on it, maybe I shouldn't have played this week, but it's just like by nature, it's like, oh, I have the 3 FedEx Cup events on my schedule. I'm going to play them. And the guy was like, well, technically you don't really need to.
Yeah. Which is very amusing. But I think Greg's right. I do think there has to be something where it's like, hey, this was the top 30 for the year. This was the top, 24 for the year. And then let him play it out. Because the Tour Championship has been very good over the last several years. But the journey to get there has been kind of a beating.
Last word on this, Patrick, because I think sometimes it takes something drastic to happen for change to occur. If a Scotty Scheffler or Xander Schauffele does not win the FedEx Cup, does that create the discourse of this is another reason this is not working? The 2 guys who had historically amazing seasons just got nipped by Keegan Bradley, who only got in because Tom Kim puked all over himself in Memphis on the last 4 holes. And we're all supposed to say he's the guy of the year. Now I'm creating a lot of this, discourse right now, but what do you think about that? Would a non-Scotty Xander winner start to raise the conversation about doing this differently?
No. Is Keegan Bradley the face of the PGA Tour right now?
He's about to be.
He's getting chance of USA on every green like he's a presidential candidate at a rally. He could completely overthrow the machine that is the FedEx Cup playoffs. He
is the outsider candidate.
Yes.
trying to dethrone,
drain the swamp. He's trying to drain the swamp right now.
Yes, and he's gaining a lot of steam in all the swing states. All right, so let's zoom out here. So the top 30 is set. Scotty's at 10 under, Xander's at 8 under, Hideki's at 7. Do we have a graphic for this, Josh? I can just kind of go with it if we don't. Keegan at 6 and Ludwig at 5 under. That is the top 5. Then you've got them bunched up at 4 under par. That's Wyndham Clark, Sam Burns, Rory McIlroy, Colin Morikawa, and Patrick Cantlay. The 3 unders, Sungjae Im, Sahith, low-key, very good year, Shane Lowry, Tony Finau, and Adam Scott. The 2 unders, Benny On, Victor Hovland, Russell Henley, Akshay, and Robert McIntyre. The 1 unders, Billy Horschel, Tommy Fleetwood, Sepp Straka, Matthew Pavone, and Taylor Pendrith. The last men in, the bottom 5, will all start at even par. Chris Kirk, Tom Hoagie, Aaron Rye, Christian Bezuidenhout, Justin Thomas. That's it. Any thoughts about that? I can move on.
Xander.
I think not only should we be rooting for Keegan Bradley, but I think we should throw our weight of this political machine behind the Swede Ludvig Åberg as a potential FedEx Cup champion without winning a golf tournament this year. I would love that.
Oh, he could even not win the tour. Like he could not win the tour championship.
I think that would be best case scenario.
Oh, that would be amazing.
So you're saying if Ludwig, like, you know, gets to 8 under par, he's 3 under.
What is he? He's at
5.
He's at 5.
So okay, and then Wyndham Clark gets, you know, raw score beats him, but doesn't get as high as he does, and then the guys above him drop. So he doesn't even win the shadow leaderboard.
He has 0 OWGR wins, and he wins the FedEx Cup.
Yes, that is the exact scenario I will be rooting for next week.
That would be incredible. I think I'm rooting for that as well.